Speaking of reliability, a podcast with good friends talking with you about reliability engineering topics. Welcome to Speaking of Reliability. This is Fred Schenkelberg.
Good morning. This is Greg Hutchins, if I can remember my name.
There you go. Yeah, it's, we don't have teleprompters or anything like that to keep us straight. Over the years, Greg, you and I have talked about, declining enrollment in professional organizations, the changing of interest in quality engineering as a profession and all that good stuff. And one of my thoughts, I've got many thoughts, as any listener to the show knows, is does that impact the perception or role of reliability for engineers and teams and stuff like that? We've talked about, like ASQ's American Society, is it of quality or for quality, or I don't know what their preposition is there, but they we're close to 200,000 members at one point, and now they're less than 50,000, something like that.
Probably. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that we need to unpack. But do you want me to launch into it, or do you want to launch?
Yeah, go for it. I'll shoot it down as we go. Don't worry.
Yeah. That's why I'll look like Swiss cheese. So I've been involved with quality since '86, basically setting up programs. So I set up the first quality programs in the oil and gas business, probably around '85. Now, what got me into it? I was a project manager, building oil refineries and building stuff, LNG plants and tank farms.
Oh, it's all your fault then.
Oh, well, yeah, we we are buying these exotic materials like 304 stainless valves that cost huge amounts of money. We were raiding North Shore oil and gas engineers, right, to build our plants, meaning Alyeska pipeline. And basically we were buying 100% American. Unfortunately, the 304 stainless started cracking. We had a lot of other problems, and basically I got fired from the job. Why? Because, at the end of the day, if you got problems on a big project and the feds come in and visit you, well, someone's got to take the hit, and I took the hit. So that's how I got involved with quality. I had to set up a quality program for the company. I went from probably a third line manager to a quality engineer, and then worked myself up to set up this program that became a benchmark for oil and gas. So that was good. Now, at that point, this was mid 80s.
Yeah, I was going to ask, at mid 80s, was this, quality as compliance to the specification, or is it quality as meets customers' expectations, or what phase of quality was that in?
In my phase, where I first got involved, was we were buying products offshore, and they were basically in the U.S., and they were creating problems for us.
Okay, so quality assurance type stuff and supply chain contracting. And
I came in through the contracting side, building up the program, and that's how I sort of justified the value for it. Then in '87, three things happened. We had the Baldrige National Quality Award. We had ISO 9001, which was sort of a replicant of MilQ 9858, almost a direct analog. And then the third thing that happened in '87 was Six Sigma coming out of Motorola. So I left the oil and gas and started doing quality. And at that time, people were writing books about it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long story short.
Well, back then, Deming was still touring and doing big presentations to companies and stuff like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. The three gurus, who became central to quality were Deming Duran and Crosby. And then Feigenbaum, a second tier group like Feigenbaum, James, whatever his name is, passed away, unfortunately. They basically took quality to a new level. And from about 87 to 2000, quality, ASQ especially, just simply went gangbusters. 150, 200,000, I don't know how many members. But, one of my friends who wrote one of the original books on statistics, Dr. Jim Lamprecht, he came to Portland and he had 300 people on his talk on statistics. Unbelievable.
Jeez, now statistics is not even taught in undergrad anymore for engineering students.
Absolutely. And those were the solid days. Those were the great days of quality. Now, I don't know where quality is at anymore. That's the problem. We don't have leading thinkers anymore, too.
Well, part of it, I mean, I look at Apple and companies that try to emulate Apple or Toyota. I don't know about Toyota firsthand, but Apple, as far as I know, has a minor quality department, reliability department, and they have some expertise there. And it's more that, and it's similar to what I ran into when I was at Hewlett Packard. Bill and Dave, the first names of Hewlett and Packard. I'm not sure if that's, it was Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard. They had a idea that a quality department in and of itself is not necessary, because they really bought into this idea and implemented it across most of the divisions that I was able to review and work with and stuff, is that it's everybody's job. And it wasn't just a placebo or a saying. It was, if you're a quality engineer, or if you're a mechanical engineer, you have to think about, is the vendor or the ability to machine that part actually capable? Are we able to do it consistently? Do we have good measurement systems? How do we monitor it or check it? And what are the areas of highest risk? So the engineering teams were built and trained to ask questions and use tools that we typically would consider a quality tool, like FMEA or root cause analysis or process capability analysis, things like that, and build that into the contracts. And instead of, I think they probably learned from your lesson, is they said, if our suppliers aren't able to do it, let's train them. Let's teach them how to do this stuff. And I got involved with that in the 90s. But the late 90s, the idea is that when I started looking around as a reliability engineer, it says, how many other reliability engineers are in the company? And it was like 6 out of 100,000 employees. They're in 50 product divisions. There just weren't people that had a business card that said reliability engineer. There were plenty of process engineers, system engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, technical marketers, on and on and on, that were very involved with reliability and quality. And we had various internal email lists where you could ask questions and get answers. Or, it was kind of keeping up to speed and helping each other in quality and reliability type topics. And there were hundreds and hundreds of those people, but very, very few, if any, on that list, except myself, had a title of a reliability person. And so some of those people were members of ASQ because they wanted to get, stay up to speed and learn about quality and learn about reliability. And the reliability division was what I was involved in with quite a bit. Yet I learned very early right then is that, and I run into plenty, I'm sure you have too, is quality teams and reliability teams that are a little more than bureaucrats, and their importance is how much in the way they can get, how much trouble they can cause unnecessarily. And of course, there's teams that have no quality or reliability people on them at all, but somebody in the organization or a handful of people pick up that role of saying, well, will this last? Is it good enough? Will it meet our customers' requirements? and champion those things and those activities and that thought process. I have found no correlation whether there's a reliability department or group or not to whether their products are reliable. It's more about the attitude. So that is the decline of quality because people are realizing they don't need the overhead of a quality department. They just build it into the engineering teams. Or is it the decline of quality because the professional societies, which is our marker for that, is one marker, is that their membership is declining. Maybe people are getting that quality stuff, other places. Now, I have plenty of anecdotal evidence that plenty of engineers don't know anything about FMEAs or root cause analysis or, all that kind of stuff. So I think the decline is actual. It's except in some organizations that people have kept it alive. But I mean, my other piece of evidence is on that. There was an article, I think it was Wall Street Journal or New York Times, I don't remember, a couple of weeks ago, that had the through line of the article is that modern day consumable products, with some exceptions, are getting lighter, cheaper, easier to break, don't last as long, and so on. So things like coffee pots and toasters and phones and all kinds of other stuff is they're deliberately thinning them out and making them with the, quick design processing, and it's cheaper to buy a new one than it is to return it, that kind of stuff. And they're looking at low costs, and quality and the reliability of the product is very much secondary. And that's a market move that these teams are trying to do. Yet, if you want to buy a good coffee maker that's going to last you for a lifetime, buy one that was made in the 50s.
Well, remember in the 50s, they came up with this idea of planned obsolescence, which is basically the opposite of reliability, right? You want to make it cheap, disposable, so that basically you buy a new one every so many years.
Yeah, and you do it where it's cheap enough where people wouldn't complain. And I actually heard this from two different people in the white appliance industry. Is that if somebody's going to spend on the order of, say, $500 or $1,000 for a washer dryer for their house, or a dishwasher or something like that, a refrigerator, if it fails in a year, that's not good customer satisfaction. People say, no, that should actually last longer. And different price point things and different kinds of appliances and things we buy, if you poll people, you'll get a general sense of how long something should last, right? If I have a zip tie, right, once it's installed, it should just last. But they're so cheap, I'll put 3 under just in case, and whereas a pencil, as I sharpen it, remember pencil sharpeners back when we had those? Once you've used it up, it's gone. You throw it away, and you got the value out of how long it took you to use all that lead. The cheap ballpoint pens that haven't changed in design in 50 or 100 years, the little blue cap or black capped ones. When the ink's gone, there's no refill, you throw it away. And that's kind of that planned obsolescence. But for the white appliances, they're saying, if it fails in a year, customers are really unhappy because they spent too much money on it. It's too much of a hassle to move these things in and out of houses, all that stuff. So they found the sweet spot is 10 years. If your dishwasher lasts for 10 years, most consumers would say, that was a good brand. It lasted 10 years. I'll buy that brand again. Now, if it fails at 4 years, they go, well, that brand sucks. I'm not buying anything from them again. And so the marketing teams sorted out that 10 years is the sweet spot. So the engineering teams then designed their products so they would last at least 10 years and not much more. And so anecdotally, I've run into plenty of people that had to replace their washing machine at 11 years. I don't have the actual numbers or statistics on it. I'd be very, very interested is how they do that. How do they design a product that'll last minimum amount of time, a set amount of time, and then start failing. That's a feat to be done.
Well, the two things they'll look at, and I know you don't like these ideas, is they'll forcefully shape the PLC, product lifecycle curve. Second thing they'll do is they'll work on the bathtub curve, the back end of the bathtub curve, shaping that appropriately. And that you can engineer that into the product. Now, does that mean it's going to be the end of the quality profession? No, it just simply says that based on consumer preferences and what people are willing to pay for.
And we want to stay in business.
Yeah, and you want to stay in business. This is what the business model is.
Yeah.
And I think a big problem with the quality profession is they don't understand business requirements, business systems, or how managers think. I mean, you and I have that conflict.
Oh, yeah.
I advocate for the company and for the manager. You advocate for the professional and individual contributor. And sometimes
but I also I've run into plenty of quality and reliability people that obsess over things that are, using one of your terms, immaterial. Well, if this will cause customer dissatisfaction if they notice it, and there's very little evidence that any customer ever cares about it. Yet, if a quality guy that obsesses about machining marks on the inside of a flange, like,
who cares?
If it's going to cause corrosion, then I care as a reliability engineer. If it's not going to cause corrosion, I don't care. Ship it. Especially if it's going to cost us $1,000 to fix a $2 problem. So I've run into plenty of people that will spend an inordinate amount of time solving the $2 problems. In despite of that, there'll be no payback on it whatsoever for anybody. And I think some folks get obsessed with the bureaucracy of it doesn't meet spec or it doesn't do this and whatever. And I'm like, I had a great program manager one time. He said, well, let's change the spec. Oh, you can do that? We got to do paperwork for that. And I'm like, no, you don't. We'll just change it. Ship it. It costs us less to change the drawing than it does to re-engineer this thing for a unknown return on that investment. And so,
engineers do that all the time. If you've got a CPK of 1 between these upper and lower limits, or, you just simply change the upper and lower spec limits.
Yeah, don't pay 10 times as much for a better process. Just change the limits, especially if you still get the performance out of the product you want.
That's right.
So part of it, I think there's a number of factors going on. There's parts of organizations that are saying, we have such a fast turnaround time. In I think when I was with HP, inkjet printers was like 6 months, and I think they're trying to get to 3 launches a year at one point. I don't know if they still are in that pace. And they would spend 2 years doing a new platform, and then they'd iterate that platform every 6 months. And so they'd have something new on the shelf all the time. So and other organizations do even faster. And there's not time to say, oh, we need to do a study of this or check out the process capability of that or invent a new process for this or whatever. By the time you get that set up, the product's already manufactured and shipped. And we tended, quality for a long, long time and reliability to a large extent, tended to focus on, well, once we get prototypes, then we can do our job. And I've been a long time advocate of your job is nearly over by the time you get prototypes. You really have to be concerned with the concept and
time to market.
Yeah, the concept and what Chris Jackson calls the free, cheap, and easy, or the free and easy stuff you can do during concept and early design to solve problems. You just have to recognize them. And better engineering teams do that pretty naturally. And so,
which begs the question, why do you need a quality person?
Exactly. And so I think part of it is that process. There's time constraints, there's cost constraints and all these other things. And the quality folks that come into an organization say, oh, we need to set up this bureaucracy. We need to do this. We need to test 2,000 samples. We need to do that. We need that. And program managers, no, you don't. You're out of here. Or we're just going to ignore you.
Language is WTF.
Yeah, no, I want you to get in there with the engineers and roll your sleeve up and let's design it correctly and help them learn how to view it so they can avoid mistakes. That would be useful. Yeah, I mean, it goes all over the map. So I think there's some of that. I think there's also the decline of statistics and engineering knowledge around just variability. I think there's a real lack there. And I've run into organization after organization, universities that have removed even a nominal nod to statistics at all in the engineering tracks. And so I get new engineers I talk to and they have no idea. He says, well, the spec is this. That's what it'll always be. Right. Okay. You haven't actually been in a factory, have you?
Most of them haven't.
Yeah.
Why? Because we outsource a lot of it, including design, to China.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can't kick tires, and if you can't make a product, I mean, kicking tires essentially is a metaphor for making product, right? Not, or, just doing
checking it out. I always associated it with, checking it out. So if you kick the tire and the hubcap falls off, you probably got a bad design there.
Probably. Yeah, this is a big problem for the profession because it's disappearing. And I have two people, Dr. Hook from the UK, who's writing articles about the disappearance of quality. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, but it's happening, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, yeah, we've seen it coming for a while, and I think it's accelerating. What we need is a good book like Carl's and my book that has a way for anybody to stand up and create a reasonable reliability program that builds in the reliability into your product. We need a parallel book for quality where it's aimed at that concept in early design stages by the engineering teams that design it. If you need expertise, that's where the quality reliability professionals can be very, very useful. But it's maybe we're just getting old, Greg, and we're missing the good old days or something.
Well, first of all, Fred, that's a nice plug for your book. So I like that. I like that little piece.
I try.
Why don't you, Carl and Diane, and start noodling together a book? Because I agree, there's a big need. Also, there's a big need for what I would call new voices in the profession. The Crosbys, Durans, and Feigenbaums and Demings, they're gone. Yep. And, they're still replenishing their same arguments from 100 years ago. Why don't you, Carl and Diane, become the new voices for the profession?
Now you just threw down the gauntlet. That means I'd have to get to work.
Come on now. Don't give me this false modesty. You just plugged your book and now you're sort of say, no, it's not me. Come on.
If the book had sold 200,000 copies, then I could say, yeah, we've got traction to go change the industry, but selling a couple hundred isn't going to cut it. We've got a lot of podcast episodes out there, and we know we've got thousands of people that have listened to at least one podcast at one point or another. So it's really going to be, can we get to enough people to, make a change? I don't know. So, if you're listening to this and going, yeah, you guys should write a book, or no, quality's well and good, here's what we're seeing in our organization, or what is quality? What are you talking about? Let us know. Head over to accendoreliability.com/go/SOR. There's a couple of ways to get in touch with us all. Greg and I and the other hosts are available through LinkedIn and our about pages on Accendo. So plenty of ways to get in touch. And if you've got one thought or another on this topic or other ones, as always, I'd say 20% and I'd like to get it to a higher percentage of our episodes are based on listener comments and questions and stuff. So please join that voice or share your voice with us and let us know what's on your mind, and we'll probably come back around and talk about it.
So when do I get $20 for plugging your book? But I think it's important.
If you buy it, then I'll send.
Truth be known, I think the book that you and Carl wrote is about decision making.
Yep.
And this is basically one of the big fault areas or fault zones, I think, in our profession. We analyze like crazy, but we can't decide.
Yeah, that's probably a whole nother episode there. It's...
All right.
We'll talk to you soon, Greg.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks for listening to Speaking of Reliability. We invite you to join the conversation. If you have a question or a topic that you think we should discuss in a future show, please let us know. You can find a comment box below the episode show notes, or just leave a note as part of a review on iTunes.